welcome everyone to the conversation where we talk about everything Cowboy. My favorite team, your favorite team, America's team. Here with your host, Coach Marv.
Cowboy Nation, how are you doing today, man? On this hot Saturday afternoon here. I'm here in South Carolina where we have an extremely hot heat. I mean, 100-degree weather with a heat index well into the 107, 108 mark, where it is feeling 10 degrees warmer than the 100-degree weather that we have outside. Our first taste of the very, very hot, humid summertime is here in Columbia, South Carolina. Trying to stay cool and trying to stay out of this heat, and hope everyone is out there having a wonderful Saturday, wherever your weather's in. I know hopefully we may have some listeners that may be in the areas where they may be having tornadoes and all kind of crazy weather, and some places where they're having some other type of inclement weather, man. But I hope everyone is enjoying their Saturday and hopefully they're spending some time with family and friends and really getting a chance to kick back and enjoy. Some just maybe still working during the weekend. I hope they're getting the chance to get off or get their jobs done. The ones that's going in later that may have to work tonight, I hope they have an easy way to go to work today and be able to get off tomorrow. Maybe have to work tomorrow, but whenever that day they get off, that they can really enjoy and relax and get some things done. I hope we are all focusing on the things we need to do and trying to be close to the best of things. Wanted to come in today for a brief moment before I got a chance to go and celebrate a big occasion for one of my good friends that I've been friends with over 50 years. Him and his wife was on this day of this, I think yesterday, on this week, they are celebrating their anniversary of their marriage vows that they to each other, man. And it was a glorious occasion. We all enjoyed it some years ago. But they're having their wedding anniversary. I think it's 7-8 years now. Their wedding anniversary, and we want to go and enjoy that with them, or their cookout that they're having later on today. So I'll be moving on and going that direction in a few. But I wanted to step in because of the fact, if you remember, for the people that follow me, the people that come in and watch my show and watch my lives on a regular basis, know about Coach Marv Real Talk and know that I come from angles that there's not like a lot of our content creators. And I watch our other content creators and enjoy their commentaries, some of the people that I work with and all the people I deal with, and I enjoy their commentary. But I come with a little bit more from a, as my bio says, from a guy with a coaching background that comes back with team building and stuff that you may not hear at first. They might not talk in front of the camera about. These are not the things that sometimes I come and I give you my opinions on about certain things, that these are not the things that they're not going to get. They're not going to be the ooh-wee moments that they're not going to talk in the media. Media is not going to talk about that. But the people who know football, the people who've been in those locker rooms, the people that's on those teams, they talk about these things that I'm talking about. They are definitely there. They are definitely vital. They are definitely part of winning and about playing. But some of these things are not what you talk about in conversations, or sometimes make great storylines for you to talk about. We understand that about in real life. there are certain things that go along in your marriage and your raising families or your job that's not the most popular things to talk about, but they're what we call the foundational things that have to happen and work about and things you have to agree about and get things going for to get the job doing or for things to move smooth. So we try to uncover those things. Now, with that help me growing in my channel? Probably not. My channel takes a while to grow. As I put it out here, want y'all to like, comment, and subscribe. I'm very close to my 1,000 subscribe mark. This going on. My channel has been going on for about a year. I got a lot of videos came out. I never thought that a guy like Coach Marv would be talking to y'all and looking in front of the camera and really being comfortable in front of the camera. Some of the stuff I've gotten, some of the stuff I put together, I have just put together on my own. I'm not a technical person at all, but I feel good, and it's a lot more that we can go and build on this channel because I think stressing the stuff that I want to stress, not only with Cowboy Talk, but we're going to do some things and we're going to open up. I'm setting up some things and we're going to open up some things that's going to be more just versatile in sports and as in life that we're going to talk. So Coach Mar Real Talk is not going to just be about Cowboy. It's going to be about real talk. And sometimes we're going to open up about some things that really needs to be addressed because as I feel it always, and I told all my friends, all my people know this, that sports, football, Cowboys, basketball, baseball, hockey, business, relationships, family, all of it is relative. And when I mean relative, that means it's all relational together. And it has a basic foundation, and all of it is similar in its own category. And some of the basic principles work just like they work on a job, works in building a team. Just like they work in building your home, they work on a team. And we have to understand those things because the common things are the most important things. And if you have those things, we could be successful. And the Cowboys are working, as I showed this as my show says today. And I've always said the DNA of the Dallas Cowboys. If you have been a Dallas Cowboy fan as long as I've been, if you've been a Dallas Cowboy fan and you have had a chance to sit down and sing that song that we are the champions of the world. Some of these Cowboy fans have never sung that championship game. Some of that championship tune. Some of these Cowboy fans now have never got a chance to play in the NFC Championship game and experience a defeat, or play in the Super Bowl and experience a defeat, or watch their team in the Super Bowl and experience a win. We have had a lot. We have a lot of disappointments as a lot of victories, but we have had some disappointments, and we hadn't gotten to that point in a long time. But this craziest thing about it is, if you watch all the teams from the 70s to the 90s, even to the teams that you have seen recently that were pretty good but didn't get a chance to get to that level, we have all had a certain DNA. We have had a certain DNA. And I keep going back and saying this. And I want y'all to listen to me when I say this. Two things I'm going to say that if you understand these two things, it'll make you a better Cowboy fan. And then you'll be having a vision about where we need to get to based off our DNA. So when we start to see these things, we'll know that we're on the right road to get to that championship. One, we have never played, this organization has never played in a championship game, an NFC championship game, Super Bowl, win or lose, but played in those type of games without having a top 10 defense. We also have not gotten in none of those games without having a top 3 running game. A running game in the NFL. Top 3. Never. And if you understand that, we're gonna talk about that. I got a prediction. I came on to give that prediction after I give this. I will give a prediction tonight of the Knicks and San Antonio. But those things I'm saying about the Cowboys, we have, and so if you don't see those two qualities, a top 10 defense, or a top 3 running game, that don't mean that we ain't throw the ball. That don't mean we had conquered. We had quarterbacks that's in the Hall of Fame. And those teams had receivers that's in the Hall of Fame. But our DNA says, regardless of all the splash that the offense got, all the publicity the offense got, the mentality of this team was always led by the defense. If you understand our Cowboys, if you know the history of our Cowboys, you know that we only won championship with 2 different coaches. Now, this don't suit well for Mr. Schottenheimer, but I think he can have this type of mentality. But we only won Super Bowls with 2 different types of coaching. And I think Bill Parcells was successful here based on where he brought the team from 5 and 11, 3 years in a row, to a team that won the division, and after he left, turned into a 13-3 team. But our greatest success here has been with defensive-minded coaches. Tom Landry was a great innovator of the offense, but he was the greatest defensive coordinator because he was the defensive coordinator on a Baltimore Colts team that was dominant before in the early 70s. He brought in the flex defense, but he was a great play caller, offenses, but he was a defensive first head coach. Jimmy Johnson was a defensive-minded first head coach. Always was. Dominated with defenses in the Miami Hurricane years. Miami Hurricanes had good offenses, but their defense dominated. When we won our first Super Bowl, we won our last Super Bowl with Tom Landry, our defense got 7 turnovers in the Denver Broncos. Matter of fact, when we won our first Super Bowl, we shut down the Miami Dolphins to literally no points. With the great stars of Tony Dorsett and Drew Pearson and the great offensive line we still were a defensive dominated team. When we won with the triplets with Michael Irvin and Troy Aikman, we got 9 turnovers in that first Super Bowl. Matter of fact, the defense almost scored more points than the offense. Even though we had all the acclaim on offense, we still was led by the defense. A number 1 defense in Dallas in 1993 without a Pro Bowler on it. Jimmy Johnson, I remember quoting Jimmy Johnson said, yes, we're going to introduce the offense in the Super Bowl, because at that time they would introduce one of the offense of the defense. He said, we're going to introduce the offense before the Super Bowl, but everybody in this room knows we're going to win because of our defense. And if this team is going to become champions, as my show says, the new defensive culture is going to have to lead the way. And guess what, folks? It's starting. You're starting to see our offensive players rave about the mentality that some of these defensive players are bringing to the table. You're starting to see when Schottenheimer says this coaching staff on the defensive end is outworking all of us. They're building competition inside their own team. And it's making the offense have to work harder to keep up. That's a great thing, people. Because I said this in a show, if you followed me, you would have known 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. I did a push and it's a short I got out there as well. where I talked about over and over about how I wanted Christian Parker. When I said talk about Christian Parker saying, and I put a charge out to Christian Parker, and that charge out to Christian Parker was what? I said, this offense may be walking around with the big head. And I said, it's up to Christian Parker and this defense to make this offense better than they were last year. And not to rest on complacency. Remember, I talked about that? Our kryptonite on offense will be complacency. But it's up to the defense to kill all that complacency. It's up to the defense to beat the offense down every day to make them better. They must lead the way in the philosophy and the tempo of a championship football team. Some people say, well, you're asking a lot, coach, from a defense right off the bat. No, I'm not. Because I know this defense is talented. I think this defense is not sitting around with no talent. Now we've got a guy like Clark and Quentin Williams and a guy that's put in work like Gary. And you got young guys that you have seen work come out of them. This team is not lack of talent. But they were always lack of mentality. And yes, ma'am. And my great follower keeps posting in about the Rams and the getting people. It's not about them getting Myles Garrett. It's not about them getting Aaron Donald. What brings those two players, what brings to the table that those two players have, see, it's not about talent. Those guys bring a mentality of a no-quit mentality that is infectious to the players around them and get guys to play better. And you know what I went across, and this is off the subject, but it goes back to what I say about everything is relative. I was just hearing a story of the great Michael Jordan. And I heard 2 or 3 stories about Michael Jordan. And I thought Michael Jordan is my, him or Kareem Abdul-Jabbar are my goals. No doubt. Not saying that LeBron is not in that top 3 or top 4, top 3, no. But those two are. But I heard the story about when he was 50 years old. And he went and he was in the Charlotte Hornets practice. And when they owned the Charlotte Hornets, and he took over and he came to their practice and he got mad with Jackson. People saw that. And he came out the next day mad at the team and came in and laced up and went in a practice section and took the second team and beat the first team. And they were talking about, it's not about how good Michael Jordan was. His presence on the second team, they stopped talking about guys that were on the second team that wouldn't miss a shot. Just the mere presence of playing with a guy with that mentality elevated the other guys that were second teamers to all-star levels just for that one practice session. So let's say, okay, we say, coach, but that just happened that one time. That could have been a fluke. Then I listened to Kenny Smith talk about a story where he used to go and not Kenny Smith, Vince Carter, say Jordan used to come back while they was, because all the players used to come back to North Carolina, and he used to come back to the summertime, and he would get a team, and he would take a team, and he'll pick all the walk-ons. And Carter said the walk-ons will be doing stuff that they ain't never done before. playing out this world with Jordan, and they'll win. That's what I'm talking about when we talk about great players. They elevate their confidence, their way of they're going about their seriousness elevates everybody in the room to the room gets to be not that they playing great or Pro Bowlish, but everybody remember what I keep trying to tell y'all with this the sum of the parts. And if we want to get to a Super Bowl, it's about everybody having career years. That's not meaning everybody's going Pro Bowlers, but everybody playing the best ball at their job than they ever done before. And what you're hearing, that this guy in Krista Parker is striving for excellence, but he's doing it with mentality and details first. And this what I'm not trying to pat myself on the back, but I am. I told you this months ago. If you remember this, let me share this screen. There was a show, if y'all remember this show, I told you about this months ago. That I said when I did a show about fixing this defense. I did this and I said in my show, I said, when you start to hear, and for some of y'all that follow me, I told you then, and I said in my show, when you start to hear and you start to see some of these bullet points, what's needed to fix the Dallas defense and the building blocks. This was 6 weeks ago. I said, when you start to see this, I said, a couple of them you already started to see in free agency. We started every side, we want size at every position. We've gotten bigger with all the guys that we picked up. I told you when we start to see, I said, we get all that stuff and all y'all talk about what players y'all want. There's a certain player and a certain way that they want. All that in the window, all that stuff you hear about, rumors and stuff like that. Yes, good to listen and have shows on, but watch what they do. The next thing I said, they're going to have defensive team speed. You see everything that they're dealing with is about being faster. All the players they said, they want faster players. They've gotten faster in the safety room. They've gotten faster on the outside. They're getting faster at linebacker. They want faster outside linebacker. They want speed. Guys like Sam Williams staying here because one, he has the quality of playing a. One time he played outside linebacker coming out of Mississippi. Plus, he's got speed. Now you just got to add the discipline for it. They have a place for him. Versatile players. You're seeing they went and got versatile players. I don't understand when we start talking about other players and this type of players, they are showing you the blueprint. But we, sometimes in the Cowboy community, we want to fight the blueprint. But I can tell you this from a coach's point of view. They have a way about what they want. They have a philosophy about what fits their style or where they want to go. They're not listening to you if you're not on board to what their style thing. They'll tell you, they told you 3-4, more of a 5-2 look. They kept talking about smarts. They kept talking about versatility. They talk about a guy that can play slot corner, that can be a safety, that can be a linebacker. They told you about versatility. They're showing you what players they're going to get. They're going to get players that have a 3-4, maybe have a 3-4 background somewhat. They're going to get coaches that have a 3-4 background. Duh. They're showing you everything, but we still acting like we don't hear it. I'm not telling them what to do. I'm just seeing what they're doing. I'm analyzing what they're doing, and I'm going with that, and I'm trying to find measures of things that would fit what they're doing. I told you at the beginning when I first heard Christian Parker talk about it, I told you safety, versatile, playmaking safety. That's interchangeable. Outside rushing linebackers. These are all the things I heard in his first comments. But since then, we in community and coming up with our own ideas, and we're arguing about some of our own stuff. Duh. Those are our ideas. They're not Mr. Parker's ideas. But I'm starting to see one idea, high IQ defensive players. They're asking questions. I did a show about Vince Wilfork and when he talked about how the New England Patriots dynasty was because they were more smart. They were smarter than most teams. Their their football IQ was high. Then Bill Belichick always quizzed them, always was putting them in scenarios. It is important that you have a smart football team, smart IQ football team. I remember Jimmy Johnson and Bill Belichick on it. I remember they did a show. I think it was on some type of show. They was talking about they was on a boat. I don't know if y'all remember. They was on a boat when Jimmy said he used to come and talk. Bill Belichick used to get information from Jimmy because he wanted to know how Jimmy built his dynasty before Bill Belichick did his dynasty. Even though he had a great guy like Bill Parcells, he liked what Jimmy did. And both of them agreed. You cannot coach dumb football players. Charles Haley came here not because he was not a live wire, but when it came to football, everybody said that he knew football like the back of his hand. High IQ football player. That's not saying we want quiet boys, but when it comes to football, when it comes to being teammates and doing the team thing on the field, there's no way you can take a thug. Listen, I'm not no problem with guys as being a problem. I'm never gonna say that. But when it comes to football, when it comes to them being not selfish, when it comes to them doing their job for their teammates, when it comes to when we can reason with them at the football level and understanding, they gotta have that, or they got to go. That's the point thing. Because you'll lose a lot of games saying, oh man, how great this talented guy is, but he won't do what we want to do, and he's not a team-oriented player. See, there's a lot of guys that maybe get in a lot of trouble, be a rah-rah, cuss you out, do all kinds of stuff, do some of the stuff that Charles Haley do. Some of the people you say, man, they're crazy. But when it comes down to football, if you ask them to sacrifice and do something, they're going to get it done. If you can reason with them on the football field to say, hey, no, that's not right. That's right. We can control all that. But they got to be high IQ football players. This is what this guy's doing. He wants high IQ defensive players. This is where some of the smarts, these are intangibles. Remember my show I did about intangibles? See, a lot of people ain't gonna see, nobody gonna do a show about intangibles. But intangibles are non-physical things that give you a competitive advantage. And having high IQ football players, defensive players, gives you a competitive advantage. It's had nothing to do with athleticism, physicality. It gives you a competitive advantage because it's a great intangible to have. Second thing is, high IQ players they're disciplined. They don't do things that hurt the team. They don't do things for you to get the advantage on them. They're smart enough to know that I have to do certain things so I can continue to keep my advantage. Second thing, the next thing we're starting to see, think about the interviews you're hearing now. See, you see the first part with the size and defensive speed, they show you when they start getting players. Now you're starting to hear the high IQ. Always talk about details. Always talk about going over things. Everything detailed oriented. We being evaluated. They want every player to know how they fit into the scheme, where we go, where we do, how we can leverage. Like Mr. Caleb Down said, yes, I need to know what's going so I can know how I can leverage myself with what somebody else is, one of my teammates is, so I can leverage myself so I can get the best results. That's high IQ. When you hear a player say I can leverage, that's high IQ because what he's going to do is he's going to take where this player is going to be played at and how he's going to push and he's going to position himself so he can be in the best spot to make a play. You got to be a high IQ player to understand the leverage and how you can work with someone else so you can make a play. You just can't go out there and do that with athleticism and just be a banshee and run around like with your head cut off. Sometimes you're gonna put yourself in worse situations where you have to be even more athletic to make it up. But when you got athletic ability and you got smarts, that makes Hall of Famers. Now I'm not saying these people are Hall of Famers, but when you put a team together that has smarts, that you're not going to blow the game, you're not going to give everybody the advantage, and then you take some talent to put it with it, then you start knocking on the door, people. Then you're leading the culture to a Super Bowl type team. And guess what? This offense see this. And as this grows, they're going to put pressure for this offense to do the exact same damn thing. Because when they come with IQ, you're going to have to come with IQ offense. You're not going to be able to beat these guys with just athleticism alone because they got some athletes. So when they start saying you got to think and react, that's when we both get better. That's when you say iron is sharpening iron. Next thing, we're starting to see coaching staff. Hey, man, tune in on this. You get some good stuff here, man. What's up, brother? But you get some top level stuff. You need to share this and leave when you share this, let the people know you get top level stuff. This ain't coming from nobody else, but I guarantee you, everything I'm saying is the gospel truth, and you're seeing it. I said it weeks ago, and it's coming to fruition now. This next point I said, you're gonna see a coaching staff that we got a young coaching staff that it was built to motivate / teach young players. What you're hearing more from the interview, what you're hearing about this coaching staff and how engaged they are. They're motivated. They got these people, they got these players' attention. They got that swag where they're not looking at a bunch of old guys. They got that type of swag that's getting their attention, but they're a detailed, teaching oriented type of coaching staff. You have to know how to get to these young guys. You got to be able to be visual. You got to be able to get to them. That's the that you need to bow down and fall into their culture and make them friends. Let me say this again. It is more important. I have said on this on many shows. It is more important that coaches have respect and trust than like and love. Let me say that again. It's more important that players respect and trust. They get respect and trust than like and love. See, they got to respect that what you say is for making them better. They may not like the way you go about it sometimes. They may not like when you call them out for their BS. They got to trust that what you say is for the good of this team, if they like it or not. They may not like you. They may not love you at this point. I always go back to the interview and the anniversary when they brought all the players back for Jimmy Johnson going into the Ring of Fame. It was documented many years. as well as with Doctor in many years with Tom Landry. The guys didn't like Tom Landry when they were playing for him. No. But they respected him and they trusted him. And at the end, they loved and liked him even more. And I remember Jimmy standing up in that speech, and he looked at Charles Haley and Michael Irvin and Emmitt Smith and Troy Aikman and Darren Woodson, and he said, "Y'all thought I was a tyrant, an asshole." And all of those players looked at him and said, "Yeah, no." Troy didn't like him in the beginning. Michael Irvin learned to like him because he was with him in Miami. Him and Charles had a run in from the jump street. But these are the guys now that were standing up there and that loved and liked and loved him to death because they understood that he was getting the best out of their ass to get to something that they would never, ever be able, nobody could ever take away from. Maximizing their talent and maximizing the talent and holding the people around the superstars accountable for making superstars great and we winning at a maximum level. And that ain't got a damn thing to do with talent. That's got to do with getting the talent and maximizing what it's going to get. So you can go get all the picks you want. You can go get all the Myles Garrett you want. If you don't have these criteria, your ass are going to fall short of maximizing your talent. Because when I see teams winning bowls, I just like this thing about in basketball. Let's get the big three. We get the big three. We got to get the superstars. Let's get the mega three. Look at that. How many of them win? But guess what? Some people gonna say they winning because guess what? These other teams making stars every day. And as I said, y'all want names? Names are being made every damn day. Every year, there's a new set of names being made. And what makes a name? Opportunity. Sorry for the French, but it's the truth. Some of these guys gonna take the opportunity and gonna make them a name. Some of the names we hunting down are already done. You got some bud names right here on this team. And instead of getting behind and pushing it, we want to talk about other players. But yes, we think that's motivating. It goes to a point where it gets to be distracting. Yes, it does. But as I was saying, it's more important that your team, your players, trust and respect you than like and love you as much. Let me tell you something, when they like and love you and they say, "Oh man, I love this guy and I love," and he hadn't gotten them to their level yet. See, Christian Parker has got to be, see, I detect him being a little real with some guys. And they like, man, he a few words, he said away. And I heard Overshown say, "Hey, it's about doing it. If you don't want to be here, he ain't putting up with a lot of that snow, late and all that stuff. If you don't want to be here, we move on." Yeah, that's how you got to be. And anybody, and I'm gonna say this again, it's gonna take some sacrifice. And I'm here. I'm a Cowboy fan to understand this. If you're not a Cowboy fan to get to 6, let me say that again. If you're not a Cowboy fan or a content creator and your main focus is to get to 6, is your main focus to make people happy and content for a lifetime and not get to 6, if that's your first focus for people to be content, then you got mistrust, you got directed fanism. I understand. We want guys. We understand the psyche and this, but I can tell you like this: there's in every championship run, there's gonna be some guys that should be paid. Some guys that should have had a contract. There's gonna be some guys that should be better than this. There's going to be some sacrifices for those. Everybody's not going to be happy. But when it comes down to putting in the work and to dedicate and to sacrifice to win, it's going to take all of them for that because it's going to be a very hard thing. And you're not going to win at selfishness. And sometimes better continuity, less distractions, more talent. We see it every year. Somebody want, and I'm not a debater, but you can't debate me on that. We see where it happens every time, but we don't want to get caught up that we saying a distraction, because the goal is to get back to saying we are the champions of the world, to get back to our dominance of winning. And if you look at all the history of the Cowboys, there were some guys in some contract disputes. There were some guys that should have got paid, but who didn't get paid, was on their last year contract. Some people, they thought they should win contract. But we still we made the main thing the main thing. And we're hearing that in our Cowboys community now, in our players' interviews. The main thing is the main thing. And if we got somebody that don't want to be here and they're going to try to disrupt some of the continuity that we got for their own focus, get rid of their ass. Because we got enough damn talent and we on the precipice of being a juggernaut. And I mean that. And let's be very careful, Cowboy fans, that we don't forget that part. Winning is all I'm worried about. Because I understand life, that it's going to be some things here and there. And sometimes I understand, sometimes we put ourselves in a precarious position. And sometimes we don't understand it. But sometimes the stuff that we do in the background, in the past, puts us in a precarious position in the future. We all been that way. But the main thing is the main thing. And we're butting on something that can make everybody get the gift that keeps on giving. There's one thing about a championship team in Dallas. Everybody that was on them championship teams, that they still living, still making money. A gift that's going to keep on giving. So that should be the main thing. And I hope our leaders on our team are saying that. So yes, coaching, motivating, teachers, young players, very young team. We're young enough for a young enough team to be, and we're a team now that's getting experience that be at another level. Like some of the things. These are the things that I think Christian Parker is not in for about woo-woo. And I think we needed that young blood. Players with a dog edge. We see that in these interviews. See, we hear when you hear Tyler Smith talk about LaShawn Gary, and then we got players on this, we got people in this world talk about, man, we need to go get some. Listen, man, guys understand guys. They understand guys. Guys understand who they played against too. This coaching staff, when Sean Gary got out there, this coaching staff did not hesitate about telling the Cowboys we want to go after him. Because we moved swift on that. And I think sometimes y'all say, well, the Cowboys coaching staff, I mean, they ain't listen to the coach staff. No. I beg to differ on that. I think Jerry gives his coaching staff all the autonomy within that, but everything is within reason. And yes, he expect you to get something out of some other players. Yeah, that's just point blank. Even in my high school days, this is the telltale story. Yeah, you want everything. You want the athletic director in the school to go buy everything. But the athletic director in the school told you, say, well, coach, some of this stuff you're gonna have to make work and make some greatness out of it because we can't afford to buy everything. Or we're not gonna buy everything. We're gonna give you stuff, but some stuff you gotta work it out. And that's the exact same thing you were talking when you building a team. I'm not gonna go get you a bunch of first round draft picks at every position. And I can't afford to go get 5 or 6 free agent guys at top dollar. There's some guys on your roster that if you like them talent, you gotta make them stars. And see, that's something our group, our fan base don't understand that. But the craziest thing, I don't really don't understand that because we're doing it every year. Bland was not a star. He became a star. People didn't think Trayvon Diggs was a star. He was a second round draft pick. And if you look at his first year, it wasn't great. But he became a star. Then some flaws started to come up with him. I know somebody, people talking about what Dan Winston said. Well, what Dan Winston said is the same thing I saw out of Trayvon Diggs all year. I said he needed to be a leader, and I did see it. Well, we got to stop pampering guys who are not playing at the physical and dominant way that we want. But we have made some stars for a short period of time. Some gonna be a long period. Some are gonna be just for a 3 or 4 year run. Everybody's not gonna be Hall of Famers, but we just want guys to be starring roles of doing their job on this total team effort. And then we got players that know how to accept roles. We are hearing that more and more in our interviews. Guys accepting their roles. Sam Williams, I go back to what Sam Williams was told from the Jump Street. And that was an interview a long time ago. He said he was told if he get back, this is what he exactly said. I'm glad because I'm getting back to the position I played in college. But I like Mr. Coach Parker. Coach Parker, a very straightforward player and straightforward coach. And you're going to do it the way that Coach Parker really wants you to do it. So guess what they told Sam Williams? That trying to be Michael Parsons, trying to do stuff that you want to do, there's a certain way we want you to play outside linebacker. There's a certain skill set that we want you to do, and that's what we want you to do, and we want it the way that we want it, or your ass ain't gonna be here. And guess what? Some players you got to be just that damn direct. And when you start freestyling, you're gonna start seeing you get less playing time, and you're gonna start looking for the cut. And the cut is gonna be you off this team. And we don't care how good of a talent you are. You may be all right for somebody else. But for the role that we want you to play, if you're not willing to do it, we're going to put your butt in the road. That's how championship teams react. So we're starting to see these things, people. And as you see them, as I told you on a long time ago, the first time I did the show, as you start to see this, as you start to see bullet points, it's going to you're going to even see it even more when we start getting to training camp. Mm-hmm. When you start to see him getting on players because they're not being smart. When you start seeing our coaching and motivating and teaching younger players about doing certain things. When you start to see the dog edge start to come out in our players. When you start to see this high IQ defense of being smart and being very technical starts to challenge the offense. And you start to hear the offense start to talk about, man, they're a step ahead of us. We got to up our game. Then you're starting to see the defense culture lead this team. And that is a good thing, people. Because if we are led by the defensive culture with the talent that we have on offense with Dak Prescott and this young offensive line, if they get to work, we could be. And I know somebody put in the comments and said about being dominant. If you look at the building blocks of this team, you can see dominance. It's always been these distractions and the attitude. Never been talent. Look how many Pro Bowlers we got. We've been having more Pro Bowlers than, and you look in the last 10 years, we got more all pros and Pro Bowlers than anybody, just about anybody in the NFL. You say, well, why? We get in distractions and attitude, man. And you have to eliminate them. If you want focus, what they always say, if you want to kill focus, get distractions. If you want to get more focus, you want to kill distractions, get more focus. That's just plain and simple. And mental toughness. All these things involved. And I think Christian Parker is going to take this talent and let me show you what I this is another ones I showed you, been showing you for the longest. What I said coaches do with talent. This is one of my go-to slides. I've been saying this from the longest, since last year. There are 4 things a coach can do with a talented player. And if you don't do these 4 things with a talented player, you are failing the player. You cannot make talent coaching staff. You cannot make talent. And you're not going to go get every #1 draft pick in the land. People talk about, I know somebody was telling in the chat earlier, somebody was talking about Myles Garrett. And they said, Myles Garrett, look at what the Rams do, and they bring back Aaron Donald. Yes, you see Myles Garrett, Aaron Donald, Puka Nacua, we call that a drafted player. Not even a first-round draft pick. So we don't even let's not even count him because that's a homegrown player. Adams, okay, you got him. You win the trade, you got Adams. You got 2 cornerbacks that you went and got from the Kansas City Chiefs. The rest of the players are a bunch of 3rd, 4th, undrafted free agents that they're getting maximum play out of. Everybody think, go on their site. Look at their team roster. They ain't getting no other free agents from no place else. They're not out there buying free agents. They ain't got a bunch of #1 draft picks on the offensive line. They got Matthew Stafford because they traded another great quarterback for him. They let players go when they feel that they ain't doing it. They have no problem cutting them loose. Odell Beckham, the running back they had that time. The guy they got from the Denver Broncos, the rush slots up, they ain't got no problem. They cut Bobby Wagner. They have no problems of doing that. They go get specific pieces with their coaching staff, get the best out of 3rd, 4th round. They got more undrafted free agents on their team than anybody in the NFL, probably. But nobody want to talk about that. We want to talk about the big. And then I get somebody say, they got the best talent base in the NFL. Really? I would say by far that the Cowboys got probably more talent. They ain't got no bunch of first-round draft picks on their offensive line. No. But they play that way because they got guys that fit roles. They're no nonsense, and they coach guys up, and they have a philosophy of how they play. And I always said that. So when you do it, when you get the best out of most of the talent on your roster, when you go to your ownership and say, "Hey man, I want Myles Garrett," guess what your ownership say? All right, how much it gonna cost? But if you go into them every 5 minutes, say, "I need another player. I need another player. I need this player. I need that player. I need this player." That's why they're gonna say, "Well, damn, man, you costing me too much." But if you want to go get one big swing and do that, and I see you getting all these contracts we got is underneath the par, and we working it out with that, and we got a competitive team. If you want Myles Garrett, guess what we're gonna say? Let's grow. Let's go get it. That's what ownership does. But you got to give me something else. I can't go get everybody. But you got to be able to make some stuff else work. And And nobody talks about that. Nobody talks about that with San Francisco. That's what they do. Nobody talks about that. Seattle's going to have a good team this year. You know how many people they let go off this team? I bet you their fan base ain't crying about it. I bet you they let some people go that we wouldn't even think about letting go. See, we have to look at ourselves. When you see other organizations letting top guys go and still maintaining goodness, and you're like, well, you know, they got guys that made names and they let them ride. And they brought the next name up and made him. Duh. This ain't no in the window talk. This ain't no crazy talk. Check the stats. Go look at it. Kansas City trade their best defensive back every year. They secondary don't hurt one bit, do they? Because they got a philosophy of making names. Because there's a lot of good football players out here. There's a lot of them. Seattle, if they have a good year this year, see all the guys they let go. And I think somebody talked about all these guys that they had the defensive line, they got all these contracts, but these guys gone. See, people talk about Philadelphia is good. Philadelphia let the defensive end they got last year in the trade, they let it ride. They let the Kobe Dean, their best middle linebacker, they let him ride. They let their safety they had last year, they let him ride. They won their cornerbacks, they let them ride. Did they? Did they replace none of them with free agents? No. They're going to replace them with guys that they drafted and the guys that they got on their roster. And they expect to be good this year. We as a fan base will never let them do that. Let us do that. And we're worried about one player that's that we got to hold on to, and we got to be beholden to them and saying he's gonna cause problems. He don't get paid. Pickens is not that damn valuable. And guess what? That's not to say I don't want Pickens on this team, but there's a role for Pickens. And I would say on the top of a ton of bricks, Pickens has always been a big play receiver, but that's not a number one receiver. There's a difference. And he suits that role as a big play wide receiver. And I think he found a home with a quarterback and with another great wide receiver that his role is fit. But if his agent going to try to get the moon and the stars, they don't need to talk to his ass. I don't agree with that. I agree with some people say, hey, man, at least need to try to negotiate with him. I can't, I'm not, listen, I would think it'd be impossible that they didn't try to negotiate. They didn't come up with it. Now, two things can be wrong with that. And just let me make sure I say this. The Cowboys could be crazy low in whatever they offer. Or the agent could be totally out of this world about what we're offering. And you could be so far apart that they ain't no need to sit around and talk. But $27 million a year for a 2 or 3 year deal with some guarantee, being the highest paid number 2 wide receiver in the league is where he should be. To be a big play wide receiver. To get out there in the market again at 29, because guess what? They may mold him into the number 1 wide receiver. He may be getting another contract with the Cowboys because Lamb only going to get one. He got his rookie contract, he's going to get another one. He's not getting another one. If we're a great organization, this is the last great contract for Lamb. We should have the next guy ready to roll after that. You don't pay top dollar when you get into 19 years and expect that they still going to give that type of production. That's not good. That's not smart build. unless they want to come down off their money. That's just how it is. But I understand the young man wants guaranteed, but you're not going to pay him like a number one wide receiver, and he's not going to be the best wide receiver on the team. I think that's dysfunctional. And I think that's going to cause more problems than a little bit, because you're going to set a precedent, and you're going to set a mentality in him that is going to run into that problem. But it's about fitting roles. And when I say about talent, I'm going back to my talent. You motivate talent, you refine the talent skills, you hold them accountable, and you put them in the right position. That's all you can do with talent. I've never seen, and I hear what people talking about, they need pickers. I've never seen a team that was 7-9 that said it's all of a sudden they need a person. I've always seen that our offense, when Dak Prescott is healthy, our offense has been a top 5 offense with Pickens or without Pickens. And that's a fact, Jack. And if your defense is better, you don't need as much offense. I've said this when I left it. I remember I left the. Let me stop sharing this. I'm gonna say this, and if you can go back to this, go back. If y'all go back to all the way back into my list of stuff, y'all can go back to when I went to the Dallas Cowboy game in Green Bay in Dallas. When I went to the Green Bay Dallas Cowboy game, and I watched one of the greatest games that in the history. Me and my long-term friends and one of the Green Bay Packer fans, been just as long as a Green Bay Packer fan as I've been a Cowboy fan. We went to that game and we all felt like just a craziness when anyway. Tell me when in big games he did. Anyway, I'm getting into that for it. That like I said, man, don't parade fake narratives like they're the truth. And when you really look at them, you're like, oh, that's really not true, but we want to say it's true. Anyway, so I remember watching that game, and they went 40-40, and the game ended a 40-40 tie, right? And I remember watching that game, and I said to myself, and I said, two teams, and people call that game a great game. And I said, at that particular point in time, I said, these are two teams that don't have a chance to win a Super Bowl. And a lot of people thought that I was crazy when I said that. Championship teams don't get in shootouts on a regular basis. No. When you got to come down to the last drive, we in the shootout, those are what we call exciting teams. They're not championship games. Championship teams get in a shootout where it's 17-10 or 21-24. And then in the last couple of quarters, you get some scoring that boosts it up. But for the first 3 quarters, it was a knucking tight, and it was defense going on. And that championship team. 40 points, driving the ball up and down the field, that's not championship football. That's exciting football. That's John Madden playing somebody on John Madden or playing somebody. That's what that is. That's not championship football. And if you be a champion football team, and you understand, going back to what I was saying, that illustrates why I say the DNA of this team and what you need is, when you go back to the DNA of this team, and you look at the Super Bowl champions of this organization, the last Super Bowl that Roger Staubach won with this organization, he didn't even throw a touchdown pass. Let me say that again. He didn't throw a touchdown pass. Robin Newsom threw a touchdown pass. He had a pedestrian game. The first Super Bowl that Troy Aikman got, we won 56-17. the defense, if Leon Letts doesn't fumble the ball, the defense scored more touchdowns than the offense that day. The second Super Bowl that we won the next year back to back, if you remember, Troy Aikman was throwing, he threw, I think, 2 picks in the first half because he was coming off concussion. And we had to turn to Emmitt Smith and the defense to bail us out. The third Super Bowl that we won, if you remember, we got one pass down the field and we scored some scores in the first half, but we didn't have a great offensive game, and our quarterback did not have a super big game. So when I hear people say, well, you know, the quarterback got to have big games for to win big games, I just point out 3 incidents that we won Super Bowls that quarterbacks didn't have big games. And you won Super Bowl. I watched the Seattle quarterback last year, didn't have a big game. Not a guy that has great stats, but they won a Super Bowl. I see this all the time. Even the Philadelphia Eagles, when someone tells about Dak Prescott and good teams, we would say that the Philadelphia Eagles in the last, I want to say the last 3 to 4 years, has been a dominant team. And they've been cooked by Dak Prescott every year. Am I right or am I wrong? He has put up extreme numbers against them. So when people say the better teams in the division and say good teams, then we say, well, that's not true. That's why I say, man, watch when you hear people put comments and parading fake narratives. Hey, watch when you see people put fake narratives that really don't have validity. Even when I hear about the last playoff game that the Cowboys lost. And I hear people say, man, Dak had a horrible game against the Green Bay team. He almost threw for 400 yards in that game, 4 touchdowns, and he ran 1. But he threw a pick 6. And we say he had a bad game. See, people parade fake narratives and they act like they're truth. But when we dig into the game, it's not. The last Green Bay playoff game he lost against the great Aaron Rodgers, he had a better game than Aaron Rodgers. But Aaron Rodgers made some supernatural throw on a 3rd down play that put them in field goal range to win the game. But when you look at the stats, Dak Prescott was better. People parade fake narratives. Like they're the truth. Those are facts. The other part that you point out is what you hear. Thank you. Nobody in the history, even with the game when we lost to the Rams one year in the playoffs, if you look at the stat, Dak had a damn good game. But no team has ever won giving up 260-some yards rushing in a game. Not even the great Joe Montana, not the great, all the great quarterbacks. None of them have done that. No. Those was the garbage time stats against Green Bay and Aaron Rodgers. Those are the stats that came back and made the game and tied the game up 31-31. That's not garbage time stats. Those games were 31-31. There was not blowouts. Duh. Those are trying to get you back into the game. So you got no facts. You just throwing stuff out there now. that don't make no sense. These are not garbage stats. When are garbage numbers? Who makes that? Who makes that? That then Dan Marino, his career was garbage. Was John Elway career garbage until he got Terrell Davis? I think you are a Commanders fan, if I'm not mistaken. Let's go back and see how much you know about your team. Was Mark Ripken garbage? What game are you want to talk about? What game you want to talk about? If you want to talk about the San Francisco game, all quarterbacks had around the same thing. It was a very good defensive game. There's not going to be great stats in two teams that play very good defense. Somebody reported out, somebody, yes, we decided not to run the football. Yeah. It's every time. We are talking about the Seattle playoff game with the Dallas Cowboys when we won that playoff game. Didn't have great passing stats, but ran for 2 touchdowns and threw it and was the MVP of that game. We won that playoff game against Seattle. I think you forgot about that one. Everybody talk about the playoff game against the Rams. Against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. No, man. We want to talk about playoff record. Don't you understand that his playoff record is probably the only person got a better playoff record is Patrick Mahomes? Oh, you're going to say, well, Jalen Hurts. You see the numbers that Jalen Hurts had in some of the playoff games, and you consider those real good? Let's don't talk about that if we don't point out true stuff. Because you hear fake narratives and you push them as they're the truth. And guess what? That's common. That's how the world is now. We'll point out something, we'll get something, we'll hear something on one little instance, and when someone says, well, tell me how you got to that. Tell me where you derived that from. Tell me the evidence of what you're saying, and you don't. Don't we see that in this country a lot now? That we'll say something, and then when somebody says, what's the evidence? We can't point it out. We just say, against good teams. And we point out a stat that says Dak Prescott against good teams without any context. Does that mean Dak Prescott played bad or did the team lost? Because without context, when you're talking about football, there is no record of one quarterback against another team. Not in football. You talk about 2 playoff games. Let's say we talk about 2 of the playoff games. One he lost that no quarterback, no team has ever won a playoff game with 14 penalties for 140 some yards. He played in that game. We lost that game. When I say it again, no team has ever won that. No team has ever won a playoff game when they've given up 265 yards in rushing. So we put that on Dak Prescott too. No team has won too many games when your defense finished 32nd in the league. We put that on Dak Prescott too. See, context means a lot. Because I hear that same thing. Well, this player, his record against good teams are not good. But we understand that football is a team sport. It takes a team sport. Guess what? You cannot put that context on it and you say, well, it's all on the quarterback. That's crazy. Because I think you wouldn't say that about Patrick Mahomes, would you? And I would say some of the Super Bowls that Patrick Mahomes won, he didn't play better than the quarterback that played against him. Duh. You ain't gonna like that, is you? That's how that goes. But listen, see, see. So if this is a statement, I'm gonna leave this guy alone. But this is why fake narratives be going. Yep, I put it on Dak because he is the main guy on the team, and the quarterback gets all the heat. These are with a quarterback getting all the heat is a fake narrative to winning football games. And we parade this fake narrative that is nowhere close to the truth about winning football games in the greatest team sport where you got so many working parts. This fake narrative is pushed in football when we talk about how many Super Bowls a quarterback won. And even the great quarterbacks tell you that that is a fake narrative to winning. But we promote that fake narrative like it's the truth. Thank you, sir, for verifying what my quote is. We promote, we promote and parade fake narratives like they are the truth. And we know, even you know, the only reason you do that is because that they get all the heat. And that's why you said that. But you know there's more to winning than just the quarterback. But you parade this fake narrative to say it's like it's the truth. Stop parading stuff that you know that's not all the way true. Thank you. I need you to say that. You made my point clear. Thank you. Did he just make my point clear, people? He made my point clear. Is what the people say. Is what people, the heat that they give you. That's what they say. That's the narrative they push. And that's why I say the same thing then. Duh. Thank you, sir. I needed that. Thank you, Mr. And listen, you're so right with your statement here. Yeah, he get out. No, he. But we tone back. Yeah, you know. See, I love when people come on here and say stuff and they verify what I'm saying. He don't believe that in his own team. He don't believe that he knows football. He believes that, hey man, it's a team sport and there's other reasons. But he'll promote the fake narrative about Dak Prescott because that's the hot point. That's what he think, oh yeah, let's talk about we talk about Dak Prescott. It's all about Dak. Yeah. That's a talking point. And that's another thing and that's why going back to what I said, I got off the tangent over here, but going back to what I was saying about the defense having the defense in the Cowboy land have to be able to lead the narrative. The new culture have to be able to lead not the narrative, but lead the charge in this coming year with our football team. just for this conversation, and I think this guy, I think league commanders, the Washington fan base guy, I appreciate him coming into the chat. And he listen, I understand what he's saying. He's perfectly right to have his own opinion. I have no problem with that. But I just get a little deterred when you give out opinions and when someone asks you, well, I didn't ask him, but you need to have the reasoning, and the reasoning should not be what other people say or this is the leader and this is where all the heat should go. No, that's being irresponsible as a fan or saying this is the person that wrong and I'm not even going to look at what other cause is. I'm just going to point out somebody and make them to blame. That's crazy. We wouldn't do that in no other thing. So why we do it in football? But I always say this, man. This goes back to what I was saying when I hear this narrative. I'm speaking for everybody else in the chat. This goes back to what I said about the defense must lead the charge and their new culture for us to get to a Super Bowl. This is what is needed to kill the narrative about Dak Prescott. This is what is needed to be able to take all the pressure and have someone else stand up in a room and say, damn what Dak does. We're going to win this thing. That's not no belittling that. That's not saying nothing bad about that. That's just saying the exact same thing has been said in the history of football where defenses have led teams. They say we want our quarterback to be good, but we're going to dominate this game. I remember last year with Seattle said, and people wanted to always kept pushing out there about Donald, about how is he ready? Can he win it? Can he do it? They always kept pushing that narrative out. And guess what the Seattle team always did? They always kill you in the middle of your sentence about about the quarterback. They say he does what he's good. He make the plays we need to make, and we're gonna make our plays. That's and they had a mentality was score 10 points. This goes something, we're gonna win the game and we're gonna win on our end. And that's my people, what this defense have to have in their mind. And if you have a fan base, you don't believe in this defense doing that, or you ain't got no gumption about we're gonna do this, and you think we need every offensive player in the world and we need to win shootouts, then you're looking for another failed season. Just enjoy the games. They're gonna be exciting, but you ain't winning no damn Super Bowl. Bet believe that. And if you're looking for something to change in the DNA of how we have always win in the 70 years we've been around, well, hopefully we can do it. But when you look around at teams from hockey to baseball to NFL, even the guy that's in here who's the Washington fan, there's a certain DNA that Washington has to win games, win Super Bowls. And guess what he don't understand? They were defensive led too when they won Super Bowls. Matt got a lot of credit with the offense, but they were defensive led. And one thing he don't understand, and I always say this, in the greatest division in football, and one thing I can say about that guy who's a Redskin fan, and I'm about to get on to about the Knicks in 1 second. One thing I'll say about the Knicks, say about the about that Redskin fan that's in there. Well, not Redskin, Washington fan. I applaud him for being in this chat because he's a part of one of the greatest divisions or the greatest division in football, the NFC East. And he should know, if he knows his history, that whoever the team that wins our division is a contender for the Super Bowl. And the team that has the best defense and the most quality running game in our division wins our division probably 80 to 90% of the time. So it's important that you have a great defense and a solid running game to win our division. And that usually proves that you are a big time contender for the Super Bowl. So he understands that. He understands that this division has never been dominated by a quarterback doing great things to win Super Bowl. He has won Super Bowls with teams with his team that went to Super Bowls, and it was not because of the quarterback. So if he knows that, why do he keep pushing the narrative about it's got to be that? Sir, I appreciate you. But those things I just pointed out are facts. So why now would you push a narrative about that? And you know listen, Phil Simms was not a great quarterback when he won a Super Bowl. Hostetler was an okay quarterback, but he won a Super Bowl. Eli Manning wasn't all that. Mark Ripken wasn't all that. Troy Aikman didn't have great Super Bowls to win a Super Bowl. Look at some of the numbers Jalen Hurts put up in the playoff games. So now you're telling me that got to be supernatural and all the other people didn't? And you blame that? That don't work with me, sir. I'm just giving you facts. And we was in a court of law, you had just lost. Just with this what I just said. So, like I said, this is why we gotta kill the narrative. And this is why we have to not kill the narrative. This is why I said what I said about this defense have to lead the cornerstone. This is for these conversations that we're having here. This is what these conversations we have here. It never that's not true. That ain't true. He ain't never put up no stats where he had 9, 7, 8 interceptions. I can go back to some quarterbacks that have had some bad games in our division, some horrible games. Dak had never had a horrible game in the playoffs. He ain't never. You can't really point out a big game that he had a horrible game. You might say, "Oh, they didn't score points," or you may say, "Well, they didn't win the game." You got no evidence of that. There's no game that you can go and say, "Man, Dak just threw 4 or 5 interceptions and ain't complete no pass." You can't. There is no game in big games. Tell me. I'm waiting. And don't put out one because there's been a lot of them. The only thing you're gonna say is, well, they didn't score. They ain't put up no points. Or they got blowed out. Or they didn't win. And all that goes back to no context. It's just the final result of the team. That's true. And when you look at the history of the stats, there's no way in the world that a guy that's in the top, 8 in the history of turnover and touchdown ratio. Eli Manning ain't nowhere close to that. Matter of fact, Eli Manning on the other end. And he got 2 Super Bowls. But oh, what games you talking about? Is the defense ain't out there? What game you talking about that didn't raise his level of play for us to score? What big game you talking about? What big game that we got beat where And all teams get beat, they don't score. But tell me what game that the offense, we had a big game and the offense didn't raise their level to win. Or is the end result is your only the only evidence you have? Because you really don't have any evidence. You just go on what people say. And you still basing off the evidence of, y'all see what the evidence of this person is? He's still basing it off the quarterback is the guy and he should get the play. That's the only reason base that. That's no, and y'all right. All the people putting stuff out there, it's no this. I found out this. When a person has his opinion, right? Regardless of what you say that shuns, listen to my everybody who's putting out. I love the comments a lot of people putting out there. But I will say this. When a person has an opinion and they're stuck on an opinion based off what they just feel, it makes no difference how much you put out there to shatter that opinion. They're going to come up with stuff that really doesn't, and they'll say what they see, and what they see has, again, it's just like this country, man. I've heard some people say, "Oh man, we got fake elections, man, and voter fraud. What's the evidence?" Oh, we ain't got none, but that's what we say. I, I said, man, I point out all the playoff games he lost, and I think he rise to the occasion. And I think sometimes they say the San Francisco game was 19-7. Man, that's a good defensive game, man. Two teams playing great defense. We had like the other team don't get nothing, don't get no credit for playing good defense. We had like when Dak Prescott, regardless of what the other team doing, is on Dak Prescott. But what about the other team? Didn't they play good? That's just crazy. But like I said, man, to win in this division, we have to be that. And I think, and right, this is great. This guy said this. He said this 1,000 times, and I want to say this, man. He said both our offense and coaches that failed us in 2002 and 9, 2022, 2021, 2023. I think that we didn't we lost an opportunity. We wasted opportunity. I think we wasted opportunities, and I think, and yes, and like I said, you have to. It's not about running the ball. It's about you take stress points off. It's got to be a team to win. And I think and this is what I said this. What I said this. We have tried. We have never won where we have let our offense and told our quarterback that he's got to lead the way for us to win. That's not our DNA as of our organization. Let me say that again. I always talk about DNA. When y'all hear me say DNA, let's think about this. DNA is your family structure. That's who you are. We have never in an organization won where we said it's all on our quarterback to lead us the way and just dominate the game and win a game. Now we may down the stretch when you're talking about players that come back. When you want to talk about a stat, Dak is probably one of the leading quarterbacks in fourth quarter comebacks in the NFL. But nobody want to talk about that. We act like that's not a stat. I don't believe, but there's context with that stat. And you just can't go by that stat. There's some context with that. But when we talking about it, we just can't allow it. And the reason why Dak is in that lead of that list is because we have left too many games at the end for him to be the life savior, where we didn't solidify and get rid of stuff with other parts of our team. And I've said this anytime. I've always been a component of this. I say when Tony Romo was quarterback here, we left too many games out for him to come down the last drive to win the game. If you put a quarterback in a situation where they got to come down the last drive of a game every game for 17 games, the best quarterback in the league might go 50%. Might. If they went 40%, we would consider them being great. if it comes down to the last drive. Y'all might think I'm joking on that. There's too many other obstacles that come in play for you to put it on that pressure with great teams, with NFL teams that say every game you got to drive down and score to win the game. I guarantee you 40% will be the best. It's almost like shooting a three-pointer in basketball. And I'm going to say that when I'm about to shut off this, and I'm like I said, it's relative. It's the same thing with basketball. In a basketball game, shooting 40% for a game from the three-point line, they consider that being top-notch three-point shooting for a game. I don't think y'all realize that. If you shoot 40% from the three-point line in the game, they consider your team shooting lights out from the three-point line that game. That's 4 3-pointers in every 10 shots from three. Hit 4. Most teams shoot around 30 to 35 threes in a game. Maybe 40. Most teams don't shoot 16 threes in a game. Their average is around 13, 12, 11. 3-pointers made in every game. Check the stats out. When you hit 13, 14, they say, oh, you're going crazy. But they only shoot by 40 attempts from the three-point line. Maybe when they go crazy, might shoot 50. But they still ain't hitting about 13, 14. Guess what? That's way less than 50%. That's the same average it is if you tell a quarterback, I'm going to give you a last drive every game to win the game. You got to get a touchdown every game. Too many working parts. What if somebody don't block? What if somebody drop a pass? What if somebody fumble? What if they got a great defensive plan? They make a play. 17 games, you may win the greatest. If it falls your way, you might win 9. But you're going to lose 8. Sometimes you're going to lose 11 and win 6. Too many working parts for you to say that. And so when I see my quarterback that has a lot of game-winning drives, that means he had too many of them. Cut down the opportunities, and then they might be better with their average. These are fake narratives that's being pushed out all the time about 3 points, about game-winning drives, quarterbacks being outrageous. All these are what we call fake narratives that's being promoted to act like they're the truth. But when we look into the numbers and we actually look into it, we find out that was some bullshit. That ain't the truth. We're trying to win the lottery. It's the truth. So again, I tell y'all, in football, in sports in general, don't promote fake narratives. Don't parade around fake narratives like they're the truth because somebody throwing stuff out there. They throw a lot of stuff up for talking points only. And this is what you're going to get from Coach Marv Real Talk. You ain't going to get these talking points only because if you tell me something, let's look at the context. And anytime somebody tell you about anything that they ain't got no context and they just telling you something they ain't got no context behind what they're saying, how you going to believe that? And if anybody want to talk about it, all the quarterbacks. Because listen here. Right now, active, there's only 3 quarterbacks active out of all these quarterbacks in the last, I don't know how many years that won a Super Bowl. Matter of fact, let me give you this stat. With the quarterback from Seattle winning, I think it's less than 40 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL that won Super Bowl. Let me say that again. There's less than 40 quarterbacks in the history of the NFL that won Super Bowls. You know how many football quarterbacks starting quarterbacks been in the NFL in the 60-some years? We act like we talk like that being a starting quarterback is you destined to win a Super Bowl. And out of some of those people that won a Super Bowl, Trent Dilfer is one of those. Mark Ricken is one of those. The quarterback from Seattle that just won one is one of those. And guess what? Quarterbacks have always been the highest paid players on the team. So we talk about guys making $60 million now. 20 years ago, when they was making $14 million, that was just like making $60 million now. Did anybody talk about how much the contract was then? Because you know how many quarterbacks that have made money in this NFL that ain't never won a Super Bowl and they always been the highest paid player? But see, we have a tendency now to look at a guy that's making money and say, oh, everybody that make that money should win a Super Bowl. But there only been less than 40 that won them. Fake narratives. And we present them like they're the truth, like they really mean that pinpoints on one person. But when we look at it, that ain't the truth. It's a narrative that somebody started talking about that we jumped on it and we started pushing it. When we look at Kirk Cousins, and they say Kirk Cousins has made cash money, has made more money than any quarterback in the history of the NFL. And I don't even think he won a playoff game yet. Maybe one. I don't think he's been a part of a playoff win yet. Maybe one thing. When you want to talk about lottery, that's lottery. See, we always talk about the face and the image of a team. But is the face and the image the team? Or is it just the face and image? When has ever a face or image ever won anything? But it's good talking points. See, that's why I pride my show in Real Talk. Because if you're talking to me about what is the promotion and how it's being presented, and what people look at, and what people see, and what the narrative says, and not talking about what's really going on, what's the inner workings, or you talk about what's great talking points, well, you're right. Y'all are so right when you come about with Dak Prescott. But does that have to do anything about real football? Probably not. But it's great talking points. Then when somebody say elite, what is the criteria of being elite? Because when we look at the criteria of being elite, what quarterbacks are elite now? Because when you look at the winning records against good teams, probably all of them probably got under 500. It's just crazy, man. What's the criteria of being elite? You say, oh, Super Bowl wins. Well, we're going to include the Seattle quarterback in the elite category, and ain't number 2 other left. These are talking points. And I'm gonna do a show coming up. And I did, I have talked about my show that I said, man, fake narratives and how sports is being promoted and how knowledge fans are taking over sports. And knowledge fans take up these type of arguments and point out certain things about these arguments that not have anything to do with football. They take these knowledge, these arguments, and they look at them and they try to put an analytical point with them and say it's all about one person. And one thing about football, as long as I've been in football, as long as you've been playing the football, as long as you've been watching football, as long as you've been in football, if you've been in football, you understand that one of the sports that you cannot individualize is football. I can hear you talk about, oh, well, that's the face of the man, that's the guy to get in the. There's no way you can individualize football. They try to do that because that's good talking points. Because talking about a total team and all that stuff, that's not interesting. We are in a society that always want to say who is to blame, and we put that who into singular context. Now that's good. It's always good. It's understand. We always say we get the blame, but as I said, just because we say that, does that mean it's right? That's the question you have to ask yourself. That's not just a football question. That's a moral question. Just because that's what they say and that's what happens, is that right though? If you don't believe that's right, why do you parade a narrative like it's the truth? I love when y'all make these comments because y'all proved my theory about parading fake narrative like they the truth. I appreciate it. And I appreciate all y'all coming in, man. I appreciate the people that just came in, man, and just uplifted. But I would ask y'all to do me a favor. If you want to come in and keep debating me and have a platform that I'll allow you, you don't see one thing y'all don't see when you hear other people shows, all these people, and I want y'all to listen to me on this. All the people putting stuff in the chat, I want y'all to listen to, because I know y'all still listening. I want y'all to listen. One thing you're gonna see about me, I'm not gonna be derogatory to anyone, and I will allow you to be in my chat and put anything, as long as you're not derogatory against anybody or going at anybody. I appreciate y'all comments. Y'all are, hey, listen, y'all really stand on what y'all believe in. Y'all come up and say, I stand on what I believe in, but I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all coming in, and I appreciate y'all comments, right? We may disagree. Yeah, like I said, but I don't mean nothing in no harm or no malice. But I do wish you do this. You're helping me with the algorithm for coming in and showing on my show. But you know something? I'm gonna have shows about Cowboys, about other stuff. Please do the things that's around this top here. Like, y'all commenting, but please subscribe to the show. I need the subscribers, because when I come on here about other stuff that's not about Cowboy stuff that we're talking about, that y'all may have some opinion about, some of y'all other fans that's Cowboy, Washington fans. When I come on here and do live shows on the Washington game, because I am going to do some that's looking for our next opponent, y'all will pop in there because it'll show up on your algorithms that Coach Marv is coming out here. So please like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to support the channel and you want to make sure the channel is keeping on pushing on, and then we can keep getting this stuff, and then we can get some stuff out here, and we can possibly get some phone conversations where I want to talk to some of y'all guys that's coming on here from other genres, from other fan bases. I don't have no problem with talking to other fan bases on my show, on a Cowboy show, because I always want us to get, man, we can have lighthearted going back at each other, nothing personal, but we can always get and I'm a football fan. I'm gonna tell you when you got something going on and things are going good. I'm not gonna be fake these fake narratives or have to say, oh man, and you horrible because you will another team. I appreciate you coming on. So if you want to support the channel, please send a cash app. We're gonna get so we can get phone conversations. I implore people or our football fans to come on. You're not going to get a lot of innuendo and gossip talk when it comes to me. I'm going to give it to you straight. Maybe some of the stuff I'm right, some of it might be wrong. But we're going to talk about football. And listen, guess what? If you're a fan of this channel and you're an NFC East fan, you have the right to talk about your team. Because we the baddest damn thing in the NFL, the NFC East. There's no doubt about that. There's no fake narrative nobody can put out about us. We got the most Super Bowls and the most Super Bowl appearances. Without doubt. And we had that before the Eagles came to the party in the last 10 years. We are the dominant division. And we really set the tone about what's going on in the NFL. So that's, if you like, comment, and subscribe. If you want to support the channel, please send me some comments. Now, as I wrap this up, two things I'm always going to give you my inspirational word, but I also going to give you a word about what the the NBA playoffs goes into game number 5 tonight. This is game 5, the New York Knicks. I am a Laker fan. I have no horse in this race, but I am a basketball guy too. I coach basketball as well. I am a basketball fan, and I give it to you real with basketball. If y'all been following my channel and my shows before, Miss my great Cowboy, my great Knicks fan, let me go back to one of her comments. It may not be the comments about football, about the Knicks, but she does a lot of comments in here, and I hope she comes back in here and throws me a comment about the football, basketball side. This is one of my great followers right here. Love her. She always come in with every show I got. She's a Knicks, she's a big time Knicks fan. And I told her that I was at the end of my show, I was going to talk about this Knicks and San Antonio series at the end, and how I see how it's going to end. Let me say this again. I've been saying for weeks that I thought Knicks was going to win a championship. This was before they even got to the San Antonio series, because of the fact I thought they was playing the best basketball. But y'all have heard me say this. I've said this since after game 1. If San Antonio wants to win any game in this series, they got to get to the 110, 115 mark in scoring. I think the Knicks are at their pinnacle level against this San Antonio defense at 105, 107. Anything else is struggle. Anytime the San Antonio has the pace in their play and they're going to that point, they give the Knicks problems. But they have to understand, when they build a lead, it's not about pace anymore. It's just about scoring. And I think they went to the point to back what I said about the 3-point line. Remember what I said about the 3-point line? That 40% from the 3-point line is considered being great? Yeah. The Knicks went 14 for 28 in the first half last game, in the first half in the 3-point line. 14 3-pointers in the first half was a playoff record. Matter of fact, 14 shots of 3 points made in a game is outstanding. They were shooting 50% from the 3-point line, which, if 40% is great, 50% is over the top great. But guess what? As I always told you, the law of averages will win. And guess what? In the second half, they went from 14 for 28 to 3 for 17. Guess what? They ran up under 40%. They still had a good 3-point game, but they fell off. That's why I'm trying to tell you, man. again, you can't live by that. That's the truth. They had a chance to win. So again, if this series, and I've been saying the Knicks are going to win the championship the whole time. I have said the Knicks are going to win the championship the whole time. My friend here, she said the same thing. That she only wished her dad was here for the Knicks to win. There's a friend of mine named Keith Barrow that passed a year ago, and his sister Victoria was probably some of the bigger Knicks fans that I've seen. And Keith was a friend of mine. He was a friend of a family that I really adored and had a lot of relations with. And Keith was that was my card partner, one of my good card partners. Me and him with a spade, me and him together playing spades, we were death-defying. And he would love to be here at this time. And the craziest thing about it, and I said this in another show, that the team that he's playing is his first cousin. That's the one that that I had a relationship with, and I still care for her deeply. But that person and Keith, they love basketball, and their two teams are playing in the championship. And I know it's a difficult time for her because both of them love basketball. And for her to lose her two cousins in this past year, and then them being in a chance, the New York chance to be in a chance to win a championship, it's got to be a bittersweet moment for her. But again, I would say this, people. I've been saying it for a long time. But if this series gets to 7 games, the Knicks gonna be cooked. When you get the opportunities that the other team has given you, so many opportunities to win, and they have given you, this series has been so tight. It could be very easily 3-1 San Antonio. But when you give away games in playoffs, you usually don't get them back. In these next 2 games, the Knicks have to make sure that San Antonio beats them, not that they give them any games. They have to make San Antonio win the game outright. They cannot choke. They cannot play soft, have a lead, or make bad mistakes down the stretch and give San Antonio any victories. Because if they get to game 7, the stuff that was given to you is erased then. And now you're in a whole hurt. So it is imperative that they go out in this game and make San Antonio win it. Not give them nothing easy. And I believe that they will get the victory tonight. Because there's going to be one game in this series that y'all going to understand that New York is going to play lights out. They ain't going to miss nothing. Everybody's going to be scoring. They're going to play lights out. Every ball is going to be bouncing their way. They hadn't had a game like that yet. They've had spurts, but they hadn't had a game like that. It's coming, and it might be the crucial game that clinches the series, because if you look how they've been closing out their series before, they always had their best game in the closeout. And that might be the night, because that's just how it's been going. And since San Antonio has been giving games away, when you give games away, then that big game comes with the other team. You can't do nothing about it. It wasn't 4 games that Knicks had like that. You gave them 2 or 3 of them. Now when they have that big game, you got nothing. It's like a tidal wave. And that might be the game tonight. But if they get to 7, and if the Knicks give away game 5, and they give away game 6 by some mistake that they make, or not playing right, or they give it away, they've been giving back their gifts they got in these last couple of games. And guess what? It may hurt them. But I see the Knicks having their best game tonight. And it's not about what San Antonio does. Yes, it is about what San Antonio does. But the Knicks cannot give a game away. If San Antonio's going to win it, make them win 3 straight. Make them win it, not give it away. And I say that is what I've been preaching all this time about this Cowboys and this stuff. It goes, like I said, everything is relative. The Cowboys got to lead with smarts and intelligence. We can't give anything away. And we cannot put the emphasis on this one player. We got to put the emphasis on all of us winning. And the window gets bigger if the team gets bigger. I think the window is big if we realize it's not about him. It's about us. And tell you something, people, it's not about who's running this thing in this country. It's not about who's got this. It has always been about the people and their morality. If the moral morality becomes in people that we think about each other and each other being best and being better, we all win. Think about that. As I always say, man, remember this: no one or nothing can stop God's will. I thank y'all so much for everybody who's made comments. Some of the comments I expressed, some I talked to, some I related to, some I didn't relate to, some I didn't respond to. But please don't blame me on that. I got the scroll thing going, and I can catch certain things here and there. But I will say, thank you for your support. Thank you for being in here. I have more comments in this live stream that I didn't even plan on going on than I'd had in a lot of. But please do something for me. If you can, do something to support the show. If you want to send a super chat. If you didn't send a super chat, just say, hey, if you put a super chat in there, and say, hey, man, I support the show. That is going to help me with my super chat part, so I can get over the threshold in super chat, so I can get some of the super chat money from them. YouTube has a thing here, you got to get to a certain amount before you can get any of your super chat money. So if you want to do super chat, then while we sit here for the next couple minutes, click on that super chat, send something to the super chat. If you want to send something with the Cash App, that comes directly towards me. All this is going to uplift the show. If we get to that next level of monetization, then I can start adding on the phone conversations. Then I can try to get a line, another line in here, so we can start hooking that up so I can get on there and start talking to you. We're going to do some other shows. We're going into training camp, but we're going to start doing some shows about other stuff, football related. And we're going to do, I see I got a lot of NFC East fans in here. I'm going to try to do a show based off the NFC East fans and try to promote it to the other Philly, the Giants, and the Washington teams that come in with their friends or whatever, so we can have great talk, because we need to talk about the NFC East because we are the bad, dominant figures in the NFL. But as I always say, man, make sure you remember, no one, nothing can stop God's will. No one or nothing can stop God's will. And we got to have a discerning spirit, people, in everything we do, everywhere we go, even people we encounter. And we have to be discerning, and that discerning spirit, you have to be linked into the source. And it ain't number one source I know, I'll say the Lord Jesus Christ, that will give you all the answers that you want. Some of them we may not like, but they're going to be the truth. And as I always said, and I've been saying in this show 1,000 times, not this in football, not this with that, with a lot of other things. Let's make sure we look at context, that we don't parade fake narratives like they're the truth, because we can be influencing someone with non-truthful stuff. Let's be diligent to look into things and say, hey, what's really causing this? And as I always say, man, thank y'all so much. Thank y'all, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Enjoy your Sunday. And make sure you pay it first. Let me see, right quick. I want to say something right quick. I don't know who's going to hear this. Still got a lot of people in the chat. Hope I didn't lose a lot of people. But I want to say this right quick. I want to say this. I was at a store today. I went to, and listen to this, sir, ma'am. I was at the store just before I came in today. I stopped at the store. And I was in line, and I went in to pay for some little stuff. And some organization came in there, they had gift cards, Food Line gift cards. And right before I was about to, I had a $22 purchase. And right before I was about to slide my card, the lady came up to me and said, "Nope, don't do that. Here, use this." And she gave me a card. And I slid the gift card, and it was a $20 gift card. Now, I went in the store to spend $8, but I got $22 worth of stuff. I had $8 of cash, and I was gonna slide the card, and I was gonna slide my regular card for the other stuff. But I went there because I wanted to just buy one thing for $8, but I ended up buying some other stuff, right? But she gave me the card, and I slid it, and it was $20. So I did have to pay $2, right? I had to pay $2 and some change, and I said, "Man, what a blessing to come." But you know what I did? And this is what I asked y'all to do. I gave him the $8. I had $8 cash. I gave the $8 for the thing. It just cost $2 for me. The lady gave me some change back. I took the $6 and some change, $5 some change, and I gave it to the next person in line. Because I was gonna spend $8 anyway. I went and got more. These people helped me with the other $15 that I said that I went over. And I paid it forward to the next person of the $6 that I say I should spend. That's what we want you to do, people. Pay your blessings forward. I didn't say take the blessings and walk out and say, "Oh, I got it." I bless the next person. And I hope the next person is sometimes bless somebody else. That's what it's all about. Until next time, people, peace.